everyone. Welcome to TAtech Live, a professional development webinar series presented by TAtech, the Association for Talent Acquisition Solutions. This program has a simple premise. For years, business pundits and speakers on business cable shows have been saying that the key to business success is to maximize the productivity of your employees, to optimize their effectiveness and efficiency. Well, that's wrong. The key to business success is to first recruit great talent and then to maximize their productivity. And in these days and times, the single most important factor in recruiting top talent is to use talent technology effectively. And that's what this webinar series is all about. We cover the latest in talent technology without the hype and without the technobabble. Next slide, please. The session that we're going to cover today is all about the why and how of working with programmatic recruitment platforms. And we have a very unique format for our show. It's divided into two educational segments. The first segment lasts about 15 or 20 minutes. Then we have a brief intermission. And during this show, we're going to show you a great video from our sponsors, talent.com. And then we do a second educational segment, and then questions and answers. Next slide, please. So our format is a little different. Our webinars are all about being social. We believe that there's as much learning available to go on amongst all of you out there in the audience. From the lessons you've learned with your experience, as there is from the subject matter experts that we'll have speaking today. So we leave the chat function open. It's moderated, but we want to encourage you to get involved in a peer-to-peer discussion and talk about the things that you're learning, the things that you're hearing from our speakers. Secondly, of course, we have the Q&A function open for you. Please submit your questions and we'll try to get to those during the Q&A period at the end of the formal educational sessions. And then finally, please share what you're learning with those out on the web. Use the hashtag TAtechLive and post your comments on social media. In addition, for those of your colleagues who aren't able to attend today's session, we are recording it and it'll be posted on our website, TAtech.org, TAtech Live, in about 24 hours after the show. So you can certainly go there and review it yourself or make it available to your colleagues. I'd also like to note that we have some great shows lined up for you in the not too distant future. Coming up on December 3rd, we're continuing our oral history project. We have interviewed some of the early thought leaders and founders in the online recruitment, marketing, recruitment, advertising space. We've talked to the founder of Hot Jobs. We've talked to the founder of the Online Career Center. And coming up on December 3rd, we're going to talk to the founder of the Monster Board, Jeff Taylor. So please join us for that session. It should be an exciting and interesting trip down memory lane. And on December 8th, Talanea, a company based in Israel, but with operations here in North America, is going to explore why talent acquisition can't recruit diverse talent. And of course, they believe that the fault lies not with recruiters. So that's another great event that you might want to attend. It's coming up on December 8th. And as always, our programs are free for HR and talent acquisition professionals who are recruiting for enterprise employers, SMBs, RPOs, and staffing firms. Next slide, please. I mentioned earlier that we record our programs, and I just wanted to make you aware of some of the recordings that are already available on the site. Our first session was an exploration with a private equity firm about the whole universe of HR technology and how talent acquisition technology in particular fits into that universe. It's a great overview and it's a great way to get a view for how the people who really drive a lot of the development in this space, those private equity investors, the other folks the angel investors who are making this industry segment go, are helping to fuel the development of talent technology. We've also done a program on conversational AI. We've done a program on recruitment marketing, especially in these days and times when things are changing so much as a result of social and economic dynamics. And finally, we've taken a look at the whole panoply of virtual tools and how they are affecting the way that candidates experience the recruiting process. Next slide, please. So without any further delay, let's get on to today's show. We have great speakers lined up for you. Michael Odell is the president of Talent.com. Kyle Lee is a vice president with Bayard Advertising. And Kevin Bunce is a vice president with Talent.com. And as I mentioned before, they're going to explore the why and the how of working with programmatic recruitment platforms. We don't do long introductions, as you can tell here at TAtech. So I've asked all of the speakers to take just a moment to give you a little color about themselves, their background, their work with Talent.com, and then to get into the program. So without any further ado, Kevin, the floor is all yours.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peter. Hey, everybody, and thank you and welcome to our webinar. Really appreciate that you're here. So to start out today, I'm actually going to do a short presentation before passing off to Michael Odell and then Kyle Lee for a nice conversation. I might pop in there and answer some questions as well. So to start out, for me, I am the Director of Business Development here at Talent.com. And you're probably wondering why I myself am going to talk about programmatic, especially working in a job board. My history, I've actually used programmatic for, I think, the last 5-6 years at this point. So I have a lot of knowledge behind it. I actually came from a programmatic platform, and then I moved on and really helping out a lot of my clients here at Talent. So as our presentation shows, I have a quick agenda. It's going to be about 10-15 minutes of a presentation here. And I'm going to touch base on what is programmatic advertising. What are the types of platforms and what can they do? And okay, you decide what a platform is. What are the considerations behind that platform? And finally, you're like, okay, programmatic is for me. How do I maximize results off of that? And then finally, we'll jump into our conversation with Kyle. So what is programmatic recruitment advertising? Well, to keep it short, it's basically automated buying and selling of online recruitment ad space. There's a lot of buzzwords behind this. I kept it short. There's a lot of meaning behind it, and which we'll get into. But essentially it's saying, okay, let's bring in the computers. Let's bring in the software. How do I find candidates in a smart, driven way? How do I reduce that human error behind it all as well? What's nice about this is programmatic has actually been around for, I think, the beginning of the internet, really late 90s. Didn't really get sophisticated until the early 2000s. And then platforms didn't start popping up until later on, 2010, and then so on. In the job industry, the platform hasn't really popped up until, I think, roughly about 6-7 years ago at this point. So it's still a fairly new concept in the job industry. And so it's really coming our way, which is why I like talking about it, because a lot of my clients use it. And for me, I get to actually really talk to them how to utilize all these platforms. At the end of the day, it's only a growing business, and we're here as a job board to adapt to it. So what are the benefits? Well, it's pretty easy, time and money. I think anybody that has a business is always trying to save costs. The second is transparency. You know exactly what you're buying and when. So we have a lot of clients that use this. They know as soon as a click happens, it's going to show up in one of these technology platforms. The efficiency behind it, you are pushing jobs almost in real time to a platform versus maybe you're going and clicking on 5 different sites and trying to push a job live, or possibly calling someone on the phone and trying to figure it out. But the key word here is automation. So you're trying to push jobs in real time out to the the rest of the ether. The next one is audience reach. You're basically trying to hit an audience that you haven't reached before. Perhaps you only tried like one job board in the past and you want to try others. This is what the technology is trying to achieve for you. And lastly, it's extremely data driven. Again, it's a technology behind it. There's going to be click tracking, there's going to be apply tracking, and this is exactly where you want to see all that information under one roof. So great, we know what programmatic advertising is at a super high level, but what actually enables it? You as the recruiter or an advertiser or an applicant tracking system, how do you automate the actual purchase and management of those digital ad campaigns? This is where programmatic platforms come into play. This is the one-stop shop for everything in your digital media buying needs. So under these platforms, there's media buying, there's ad placements, there's performance tracking, there's budget allocation, there's campaign optimization. There's a whole slew of things that you can really achieve using these platforms. If you move on to the next slide here, it's really what can you expect from these programmatic platforms? Again, we know what programmatic platforms are, and we briefly know what enables it. But what exactly are the platforms behind this technology in this industry? So we have here an advertiser or a recruiter, and you're like, okay, I need to push my jobs out. So the first platform we have is what's called an ad exchange. The best way to think about this is ad distribution. You might end up talking to a lot of programmatic companies out there and trying to understand exactly what models they have, what platforms they have, and they might bring up an ad exchange. An ad exchange, again, is just a distribution of all your jobs to different sites, different aggregators, maybe search and social like Google and Facebook, all under one roof. You as the advertiser can connect directly into the ad exchange and have your jobs basically out into the open to thousands of different sites. What's nice is you don't have to do that much work because the platform is doing it for you. The second platform that we have in this space that is really popping up is called a demand side platform, or DSP for short. Again, this is ad distribution, but the difference is you are deciding where those jobs will go. So you have an ad exchange, great. I want to continue utilizing an ad exchange through my demand side platform. Or perhaps you just have a direct contact with someone at talent.com like myself. And you don't want to give that relationship up. So you can call me anytime if there's something up, we can talk about it, and we can push all that content back into the demand side platform there. On a demand side platform, you actually have a ton of optimization, a ton of customization. All of these companies that I've known and worked with or worked for allow you to bid on cost per click, a cost per apply, a flat rate cost per click, slots, duration posts, kind of like LinkedIn or Craigslist. And then also it allows just a ton of customization and rules. So an example of like a customization that you can put into a demand side platform is, say you have, for argument's sake, a low amount of jobs. Well, say we have 10 jobs for $1,000. Before you actually looked at any of these platforms, you have one job in New York that's constantly attracting and eating up all your budget. Well, and if you put it in demand side platform, you can actually put a rule in place that says, okay, after $200, take this job off all the sites. I don't want to post New York because it's going to eat up all my budget. So now you have 9 jobs out there. They might not still get attraction, right? But you can actually set a rule in place in here that says, okay, great. I put it at 15 cents cost per click. After 3 days, if I don't get any clicks, I'm going to increase it by 5 cents. And by increasing the 5-cent bid, you're actually becoming aggressive, and you're bidding against other people with similar jobs. And now you're actually getting attraction to your content without ever overspending. And on the next slide, there's a lot of pros and cons for the ad exchange and a demand side platform. They really are good for any of your needs. So I'd always recommend just using both of them, if not one or the other. But the pros for an ad exchange, again, you have to treat it as one partner, right? One publisher. And at the end of the day, it's very simple. All your content is going out to many different sites. Therefore, the integrations are already happening within the ad exchange. You are not touching those integrations. And so you, at the end of the day, all the money goes into this ad exchange and it spits out and you get one invoice from it. And lastly, you get the reach. You might have not used certain sites, and so now your reach out there is a lot better. The cons, you have less control of the buying process. Again, you are sending it off to the ad exchange, but it's really the platform deciding exactly where it should go. And the second part is not all job boards do this or sites do this, but it is becoming a thing where it's not premium real estate. An ad exchange is more, a job board has leftover space. We want to monetize on it. We want to get jobs in the door. But really, it's a direct sale has typically better return when you're trying to expand a lot harder. A DSP, the pros is you are in charge. You choose the publishers, you optimize, you are customizing, you are automating, you are running everything. But come with that, right, there's the con of steep learning curve. I have an analogy that I'm sure Michael and Kyle will make fun of me. I like saying it, so they can have their analogy during their time. But the way I look at this is a demand side platform is essentially a Ferrari, where it's super powerful car or tool, and you're the race car driver, but there's a lot of responsibility behind it. The ad exchange, and I'm not knocking anybody, is a Honda Civic. It's extremely reliable. You get from point A to point B, and you know exactly what you're going to get. So great, we figured out, we want to use the programmatic way, right? We decided, okay, I considered everything. What do I need to do? Now, the biggest thing ever, like when you're trying to think of programmatic, and before you even go to a programmatic company out there, you really want to define your goal, right? And you want to understand what is your goal behind it. You might have a really good mindset of what you're doing right now with your company, but maybe programmatic can take it one step further. And so an example of a goal could be like quality candidates at a lower cost, or maybe you diversify where you're attracting candidates because one site is only getting sales candidates, but it performs poorly for technology. Where can I push this job to make sure I attract the right talent for technology jobs? The second is a month-long trial. I think this is very fair anytime you really test anything. It takes a long time for the system, not a long time, it just takes time for the system to understand what kind of jobs you have in there. But perhaps like if you go into the ad exchange, it's basically looking at the jobs, trying to confirm what you have, where it can perform, and then spit it out. If you look at like a DSP, maybe you have like a ton of different automations or rules in place, and 2 weeks in, you realize, wait a minute, there's this customization in here that I haven't tried yet. Let me try it. And then 2 weeks later, at the end of the month, you realize the last 2 weeks were the best performing that you've had for your jobs and your content. And I think this goes coincide with it. You set a budget to last the month. This is, again, you don't want to spend something within a day, 2 days, 1 week, and you don't really get to trial what the platform does, but also gives consideration to the actual pacing features behind it. So now you can keep that job longer to attract better candidates throughout the month. Utilize automations. Again, this is the big keyword for programmatic, no matter what platform you decide to use or both. Make sure you utilize the automations behind it because it's really going to be beneficial for you and for me. And then we can kind of talk together and say, hey, I know how programmatic works. If you just put this in your system, you're going to get X amount from talent as well. Integrate your platform with an ATS. You know exactly where your jobs are coming from, at what cost, and then you can see like a cost per apply behind it. And you can make decisions to say, let's turn off this site and then turn on another site to make sure we're diversifying, but we're getting a better and lower cost per apply. And then lastly, make it a truly one-stop shop. This is a platform that's supposed to be for your needs, no matter what, and anything in the recruiting side. For the longest time, even for me, there was a time where I would have a bunch of Excel sheets. I would have like a bunch of different partners I want to work with. But this is exactly where all those recruiting needs should be into one one solid platform for you. That's my presentation, and I just wanted to end it with too, like again, from a job board perspective, we're here to essentially help you through Programmatic because it really does optimize on our site just as much as we can optimize your traffic on our own site too. But we're excited. We're excited for what Programmatic is, what Programmatic does, and we're really willing to work with you all along the way, no matter what you decide. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it off to Peter, and I believe we have a short little video for you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nikki Ferentz and I'm a Business Development Director in our staffing division at Talent.com. For those of you who are unfamiliar with us, Talent.com is an aggregator job board and one of the largest sources of job search around the world. Our organization has a presence in 80 countries, we have 6 offices worldwide, and receive over 70 million monthly visitors globally. I plan to spend the next 5 minutes taking you through our solution and our model, both of which are uniquely designed to assist the staffing industry with obtaining qualified candidates and brand visibility. Our offering at Talent.com is simple. The only thing we sell is sponsored jobs on a pay-for-performance basis. Any employer, including staffing companies, can post their jobs from their career site to Talent.com for free. However, those who choose to pay to sponsor their jobs will see their postings appear at the top of our search results page, and our data shows that they will receive 10 times the number of clicks from interested candidates. Advertising costs with Talent.com are based on performance and measured by the number of views from candidates. Prepaid job posting models, however, require that your investment remains the same regardless of if you get 1 million clicks from interested candidates or none. With pay for performance, you only pay when an interested candidate clicks on your job posting, which results in the most cost-effective way to post jobs online. And in order to control spend, our customers have the ability to set limits and pace job campaigns out over a specified amount of time. Also, we have an incredibly flexible model in that we do not require contracts, investment commitments, or upfront costs, which allows staffing customers to scale up and down in advertising as business demands. I'd like to welcome you to the Talent.com site and share our job seeker experience so that you have an understanding of how we attract and funnel quality candidates to our staffing customers. From our homepage, our candidates can begin a classic keyword search for a job in their area and receive a list of job results for review. So for example, if I'm a candidate looking for a software engineering position in Chicago, Illinois, the jobs that are listed at the top of our search results page are marked with a star. This means the employer posting the job has paid to sponsor it and achieve its placement here at the top of this list. The jobs listed below those marked with a star have been posted by employers in this section for free, but are likely to get less engagement. For our candidates, it's our goal to provide an informative experience on our site. So we display relevant information about the type of job searched in the section just to the right of our job results. In particular, our candidates enjoy the benefit of seeing salary information along with tax deductions and net pay in their home state. I'd also like to point out, we allow candidates to review job listings in our preview pane, which is beneficial to both job seekers and employers. So if I click on a job in our search results list, for job seekers, they can gain some insight into the job duties and requirements, location, and even pay if the employer chooses to make that information available. They can see these details in our pane view without having to click into each job in the results list, hit the back button after every job in order to get back to your job results list. And then for our customers, previewing your job to candidates in our pane view does not incur any costs. You would not be charged until an interested candidate clicked on the orange button to apply. I'd also like to take a minute to point out 2 additional value-added features available to job seekers on Talent.com. First is our salary calculator. One of the most practical career considerations for any job seeker is salary and the type of paycheck a candidate would need to cover life's necessities. Not to mention, the goal for most of us is to keep building on our worth so that we're able to live comfortably while doing work that's fulfilling. Our salary calculator allows job seekers to type in any job title, and I'll keep working off the same example we've been using, which is a software engineer. Here you can see a salary range, which is likely commensurate upon experience. We also provide salary information by state, so our job seekers can see the difference in salary for the same job between different geographic locations. And in case you're interested in knowing as a job seeker what your earnings would be after taxes, we have a tax calculator available to candidates as an added feature. And working off the same example of a software engineer making on average $106,000 per year in the state of Illinois, our platform shows our candidates' net take-home pay after federal, state, Social Security, and Medicare taxes would be just over $76,000 annually. And please stay tuned. To expand on our tax and salary tools, our product team has announced an additional resource that's in development for job seekers. Our candidates will soon be able to utilize a calculator to understand the cost of living difference between their current and other communities during their job hunt or before accepting an offer. On behalf of Talent.com, I'd like to thank you for your time today. If you have questions or would like to learn more about us, please feel free to reach me via email at nikki.ference@talent.com.
Okay, that concludes our intermission. I'm now going to introduce Michael Odell and Kyle Lee, who are going to carry on with a conversation, a fireside chat, if you will, about programmatic ad buying. Gentlemen.
Thanks, Peter.
Hi, everybody.
There he is. Hey, Kyle. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. We're going to do a quick introduction and then jump into the fun part, having our little fireside chat. Kyle, quick introduction about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm with Baird. Baird is a recruitment marketing agency, meaning we typically work with Fortune 500 with all things hiring. And for Baird, I sit on the strategy side. So I work with our clients' tech stacks. I provide media plan recommendations. That's pretty much it.
Right on. Well, I'm Michael Odell, president of Talent.com. I've been in the industry now for about 16 years. I did work as an intern at a staffing firm in college for a bit, but really got my start here in 2004 with Career Builder. I joined Talent, who was at the time known as NuVu, in April of 2018. In my capacity here, I run our U.S. operations, sales team, etc., and previously have run teams in both domestically and overseas in the UK, kind of product teams, sales teams for all types of industry, small business, big business, government, gig economy, etc. Talent.com, for those of you who aren't totally familiar with us, we are about a 9-year-old company. We are one of the top, I don't know, 4 or 5, depending on who you ask, job sites in the world. We operate in 79 countries. The US is actually our largest market. We work with a plethora of different partners. One of them is Bayard, where Kyle works, but we also work with many other advertising agencies, as well as a whole host of different programmatic buying platforms that include folks like Recruitix, PandoLogic, Appcast, Jovio, etc. And so one thing that was one of the questions was, why did I ask Kyle to join me? Why in the world Kyle Lee, of all the people in the industry? Pretty simple answer, because I wanted to. Kyle's my friend. But going back about 4 or 5 years, Kyle is the first person that I ever really talked to about programmatic in my former life. I was tasked with figuring out what is programmatic and what do we do. And there was this one guy that I knew kind of tangentially through some other friends, and they said, call Kyle and he'll help you out. So my first foray, my first touch into programmatic was through Kyle Lee. And he has a plethora of experience and knowledge here. He worked with lots of different platforms, many different brands, and can talk pretty holistically about this industry. So thanks for being here. Kyle. So, that first time we talked a long time ago, what's the biggest thing you've seen change in the programmatic ad space since, when was that? I don't even know when that was, 2015?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of, additional platforms that have popped up, a lot greater adoption. And, now within the last year, a lot of consolidation with a lot of those companies. So yeah, it's become a lot more mainstream than it was, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
That's a great point. I like how you say that, mainstream. I've been here long enough that when I started selling in the job space, our job was to move people from the Sunday newspaper online. And I kind of feel like that's where programmatic is. How do you get from just posting on 30-day job board or post boards and Indeed to the rest of the internet? What's the big impetus to get people there?
I mean, it's just extending your audience reach, right? So, as companies get more and more data driven with their recruiting, as they're able to look deep into their data and see, exactly where their hires are coming from, how much their hires, are costing, they're just getting more advanced, right? So, moving folks more to a true, marketplace model of advertising, just continues to develop.
Yeah, I think when I got started in the programmatic world, by the time you and I got acquainted, the goal was, hey, can you give me a lot of applications on a per click basis, and not where we are today is kind of looking back and saying, how is each one of these partners or vendors done in helping provide applicants to me within the range that I'm comfortable paying that I can make hires? What's next?
I think we're going to focus more, you ask any recruiter what's the most important thing to them, or, anyone in talent acquisition, and it's the hire.
Mm-hmm.
I think the model is going to continue to, move closer and closer to focusing on optimizing towards that, perfect hire rate.
Yep. Yeah. And I from the job board perspective, where we're at here every day, it is that, right? I think the big difference in working with boards like us in a programmatic buy situation is the onus is on the publisher to make sure we're delivering results every single day. One of the things I talk to people when they're considering buying is the old traditional model is you have your sales rep, you go to a baseball game and maybe a dinner once or twice a year. And then about this time of year, December 4th, 5th, 6th, they call you and say, Kyle, are you ready to sign on the bottom line again? You either say yes or no.
Yeah,
with
that's gone. That's totally gone.
Every day. Yeah, that we as the publishers have to work to earn your business every single day. Is it hard? Yeah. But is it better for the buyer? I think so.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But those career builder dinners, those are nice dinners.
We had some great dinners. I'm not going to lie. Those were fun. We need to bring those back. Kevin talked about time and money. That was the first bullet point. And I think his point there is possibly the biggest and most impactful thing that programmatic and performance-based marketing can do in the job space. Can you expound on that a little bit? How does programmatic help an organization save time and money?
I'll explain it from someone who, from the perspective of someone who has to deliver upon, the media. So, when we brought programmatic, to the agency 6 years ago, before that, we were managing orders for Indeed, ZipRecruiter, maybe Jobs to Careers, maybe, Next, or, it was Beyond back in the day. And that's a ton of work, right? Because, you're creating these orders and then you're having to literally call or email every single publisher, job board, in terms of, hey, these are the jobs that we want to focus on. These are the goals that we're looking at. And that's not just something that you do at the beginning of the order, at the beginning of the month. You have to do that throughout the month, right? So, if you're doing that with 3 to 5 publishers, that's a lot of time. If you're trying to go the route of creating a true marketplace and managing 20, 30, 40, 50 different publishers, that's impossible without software. It's just absolutely impossible. So, to Kevin's point of saving time, when you run those buys through a platform, you can start to set up some rules, right? Rules like, hey, I only want to advertise this job if after 5 days of that rec being open in my ATS, I don't have 10 applies.
Yeah, we see that one a lot.
You can't do that. It's almost impossible to do that without a platform.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting too, you talk about that. I think back to my old days when I was a young pup selling. One of the most frustrating things I did was talk to TA managers. I don't even think we called it TA back then. It was recruitment directors, right? Saying, we got this great thing. We did a wonderful job for you last year. What do you think? And the most frustrating thing was when they would almost always say this. Let me talk to my recruiters and see what they thought.
Yeah, they feel.
Yeah, this whole idea of marketplace
Yeah.
and transparency has changed all that, right? There is no let me talk to my recruiters. It's let me check my dashboard here, and I see that of my 6 vendors, Talent, you did pretty good. You were number 3. Sometimes we're number 1, and there are some times where we're number 8, and the customer doesn't continue with us. But it's proven out by the data. Talk about data a little bit more and how we've gotten better and kind of where it's going.
Yeah, the idea of putting a URL source tag on a job, the idea of putting a pixel or a JavaScript code on the ATS, that was almost non-existent 7 years ago, right? So whenever I would look at a hire report, I would see 2 things. The number 1 source of hire was the career site. Number 2 source of hire was Indeed. Right? So what Indeed did very early on, they understood this. They went out to all these different ATS providers and installed their tracking, right? So they did that very well. Now, the problem with the number 1 source of hire being the career site is that it isn't the number 1 source of hire. Rarely.
Yeah, career site is not a source.
Right. No, unless you have a massive employer brand, and everyone knows your career site.
That's right.
That's inaccurate.
Yeah.
So, with tagging and source tracking, today, that is a ton of data that we didn't have 6, 7 years ago. Right. So we could drill down by, job, by location, by candidate, exactly where they came from. Last touch, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We still don't have a proper attribution model. But last touch, we can see where that hire came from.
I think that's kind of been one of the rubs too for our industry. The joke is always that recruitment advertising or HR technology on a whole is 4 or 5 years behind the world of consumer. And that's probably true in a big extent. But the rub for us in this world is, hey, this isn't really programmatic. This is more performance-based or, a pay-per-click model. And I think that's true. However, as we move forward, as our system at Talent.com and our programmatic partners systems get better and more linked, we have tons and tons more data, like you said. And as that grows, the data helps us make those decisions so that we take all emotion and all human interaction out of it as much as we can to say, we need to put this job where it goes at the right place, at the right time, at the right price, based on the data, not just what we think.
From the TA perspective, every year when hiring managers say, hey, next year I'm going to need to hire X number of people, you're going to have to deliver on that TA. And the talent acquisition has to go to finance has to go to the CFO, right? They have that cost data, right? So they can predict now, all right, if last year I had to hire 1,000 people and it cost me $100,000, right? And now this year I'm going to have to hire 1,200 people. Look, CFO, this is what my budget is going to have to be. Right? Whereas in the past it was, I don't really see the data there. I'm going to cut, TA's budget.
Yeah. And hopefully you have a good sales rep who can just get that contract level up, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, the opposite rings true this year with COVID-19. One of the things that we've seen at Talent, at least, is the migration from the traditional boards, the traditional way of recruitment marketing, has accelerated because of COVID. Folks are saying, I don't have any idea what my recruiting plan is going to be for the next, month, 2 months, 3 months. But when they do have a need, they can quickly and efficiently turn on advertising. And we always say it's like a spigot, right? If you want a little bit of water, you just turn it on a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you have huge needs, like somebody like an Amazon or a Walmart or grocery stores, they can turn it as hard as they want and drink out of the fire hose. And so that flexibility too, I think is a big difference that helps people.
Yeah, no, I agree. That flexibility is, the winners out of this are going to be the ones who are more flexible, who can turn on and off. The losers, I'm afraid, look, it's Q4 budgeting season.
Yeah.
I hate to name names, but LinkedIn typically works on an annual contract. Having a massive annual contract back in March looked really dumb.
Yeah.
March, April, that looked really, really dumb. So I think they're going to struggle with that.
Right on. So one of the questions I had jotted down for you too, and let me tell you the answer. Programmatic is good for everybody, right? That's the official line for talent from talent.com. Anybody and everybody can use programmatic, and you can. But somebody like you, Kyle, what is the perfect customer profile for using programmatic? Different kinds of programmatic, going back to Kevin's idea about the DSP versus just an exchange.
The same rules apply with a job board as it does with programmatic. If people are not, if certain candidate profiles are not going to a job board, programmatic isn't going to work. Meaning, if you're trying to find someone who would be more of a passive candidate, you have to take a sourcing strategy. Programmatic is not going to be the best for that. But if you're trying to attract an audience where folks are going to the job boards, they are actively seeking, programmatic is great, right? It's also good for folks who have typically relied upon a lot of organic traffic in the past. I never recommend using just one board. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. You want to diversify what you're doing. So programmatic works well, for that type of profile.
Yeah. And I'll throw in a plug for our partners. We at talent.com love working with partners. And we consider partners kind of a third party, maybe middleware that helps get your jobs as an employer to a job site like talent.com so that we can, efficiently kind of break down those barriers. It's just that conduit, that pipe. And one of the things that we really like to do is work with our advertising agency partners, of which, Kyle and the folks at Bayard are one of many. We love working with the ad agencies because they help educate the end user. From a large perspective, from an enterprise buyer perspective, if you have a company that is centralized recruitment function, high volume, brand name or no brand, and the technology to really take advantage of the data, we say you're a great fit. And it may be difficult or maybe a little scary to get in to say, hey, I'm used to the 30-day world. I know how to do Indeed, but how do I do the rest? Reach out to a recruitment ad agency, and feel free to reach out to us here. We work with about 40 different ones, and the guys at Bayard may be great, but so may be the guys at Shaker or Recruiters or whomever it may be. There's a bunch of them out there, and we can help point you to the right place to teach you and get you into Programmatic. They're great partners, and we like to work with them. Yeah. You want to ask me, Kyle?
What was the hardest thing, for you going from, big, well-known company like Career Builder, where you sold 30-day postings and other packages, down to, more of a performance-based model and company?
That's a good question. Back then, we would always joke even that just because, oh man, I'm going to date myself here, just because Career Builder and Monster and Hot Jobs looked the same on their search page, basically, we're all very different on the back end. And I would say that that's also very true in the world of Programmatic. We all make sausage, but the way the sausage is made is completely different depending where you go. I think the hardest thing was this mindset change of, it's not just about how good your brand is and how well Kyle at the ad agency, et cetera, but making sure that you are talking about the value that you give to your customers. And it is so much about what you deliver. The proof is in the pudding. And that's something tough to adjust your mind to. When you're going from that kind of annual cycle idea to a day-to-day cycle, you don't just have to change your mindset. You have to change what you do on a daily basis and how you work. And from on our side of this equation, it is more technical. Programmatic is more technical than the traditional way of doing it, because we are constantly tweaking it. Here at Talent.com, we have a whole team of people who optimize campaigns. That's what they do all day, is they look at such and such employers' campaigns and say, hey, this one was doing great yesterday, it's suffering today. What do we need to do to give it better exposure, or kind of get it back into that range of a cost per application that they need to continue partnering with us. So that's definitely the biggest thing here.
I mean, what don't you like about this model? I mean, you kind of hinted on some of it, but like, what don't you like about either the model or how it's being delivered today?
Ooh, man, that's a great question. I don't know that there's much that I don't like about it. It is more difficult for the publisher. Like I said, the proof is in the pudding. The onus is on the publisher. But that's what makes it kind of worth it too. Is that when your customers continue to work with you, it's because you know that you are adding value to them. You're making it easier. You're saving them time, and you're making it less expensive. I guess one of the things too that we're trying to break down is the idea of, hey, what's your cost per click on this job? What's your cost per click? That is something that's been changing pretty rapidly over the past year, where it used to be, hey, we're the CPC leader. We can get you the same marquee placement on our site as you can get at Indeed for 30% less. That may be true, but that may not be true too, depending on what the job is and what the industry and the supply and demand on the site. But the customer still really is often concerned with that CPC is. What we want to work with folks on is, like, it doesn't matter what the cost per click is. Let's figure out how we get you to applications that can turn into hires within the range that works for you, your company, your industry, and the job type that you're hiring for. There are some jobs, some retail positions and things like that, where the cost per application is very low. There are other jobs like travel nurses or truck drivers that the cost per application is very high. And that's kind of where we try to take the difficulty out of the customer's hands and say, just tell us what your goals are, and we will do what we can to implement it and get you there.
Right. Because, $50 CPA might seem absurdly high to someone, but if we're talking about travel nursing or truck driving, I mean, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah, that's pretty darn good. I like those numbers. All right. Well, I think we can kind of keep talking, but Peter, did we have any questions from the crowd here at the end of our day here?
We have had a couple come in, Michael, so why don't we start through them? We'll get as far as we can. The first is a question that I hear a lot when we talk about programmatic and pay for performance. It is, how do I determine how much to bid on jobs in programmatic feeds?
Yeah, that's kind of just what I was talking about. There's not really any golden rule. If your partners, whether that's the job board, the site like talent.com, or your ad agency or your programmatic platform, if you're working tightly with your partners, you can trust that they are doing the best, the most accurate, the best, most efficient cost per click. These things change so much because it is a marketplace, right? Supply and demand. And as supply and demand changes, so does the CPC. And that's something that in my opinion, should be really kind of hands off and let the DSP or the platform make those decisions for you. What do you think, Kylan? Anything different on that?
I mean, some platforms will, some won't. Now, you still have to have a human teach that platform what to do.
That's right.
So, some of the things that drive me nuts are the marketing, terms like machine learning and everything is AI. Well, I mean, really what these platforms do, from an AI perspective is, look, artificial intelligence is just computers making decisions that would otherwise require human intelligence.
Right.
So what that is just a rules engine. So if you're trying to bid towards a certain CPA target, you can set up rules in these platforms that say, all right, if my CPA is X after running for 10 days, and I want to lower that CPA, reduce my bids by 5-10 cents, every day until I hit that goal. Right. So you still have to have, a strategy there to be able to, plug that into the machine. And that's why, I typically recommend, if you're brand new at buying this way, find a partner, be in an agency or be at the, a lot of these platforms have a managed services group. Use them, learn from them for 3 months. And then if you want to take it, in-house, great.
You'll most likely love the partner and say, yeah, we'll just stick with them. Thanks, guys.
So the reference to machine learning and artificial intelligence is a good segue to the next question. Obviously, recruiters are happy to have the power of technology helping them be more efficient, more effective. But on the other hand, there is this sort of lingering shadow that they worry about what role they will have when all of this is said and done. So here's the question. How automated is programmatic advertising today?
One who will say that plug in your goals and the machine will do the rest is peddling fiction, right? It requires hands, right? It requires a strategy. It requires somebody to not just put in that strategy, plug in the publishers that you want to use, add the jobs. You still have to monitor it. It is not a set it and forget it type of deal, unless you are working with a service provider who is, doing those actions on your behalf, right? And at that point, you probably just want to have a check-in call, either once a week, fortnightly, maybe once a month to check in on things. But yeah, anyone who says that it's 100% automated, it's just not true. Anyone who says things like 3 clicks, 2 applies, 1 hire, they're also peddling fiction.
Wish it was that easy. Yeah, I'd concur with that.
No, I don't like BS.
No. Even if you were to, from the customer's perspective, there is a lot of things that can be automated. But from our side, on the publisher side, we definitely keep our hands and eyes on the campaigns. Because, sometimes algorithms aren't perfect. And there was an example a couple of years ago where we had a platform that was automatically bidding we're able to give this customer, the end user client, applications for $4 an application when their average application was like $28 or $29. So this algorithm automatically tanked the CPC because they said NuVu/talent.com can give us applications at $4. And then we got a call and said, why aren't you producing, what happened? You're not producing any more applications. We're losing our shorts with this customer. And what we realized was that was kind of an outlier, right? And that algorithm decisions without having anybody look at it. And so we're like, hey, we need to keep an eye on this, because when we go and make sure that your cost per hire is within your range of your, whatever it was, $20 to $30, we were able to give them 1,500 applications a month instead of 5 or 6 at $4. So yeah, there is automation. And I think we will continue to trend toward automation. I think what's great though is that the automation gives recruiters and TA people more time to be strategic instead of just posting jobs and looking at dashboards, and really add value to the process, be able to engage with job seekers. Now, it's one of the things we tell people is recruiters is in some industries, people get hired the second that they hit the industry, right? So give your recruiters and your TA team the ability to engage with qualified job seekers as soon as they get that application in there. Get some of the minutia out of the way so that you can get to a good job seeker before they get talked to by your competitor and take a job there.
Okay. Well, we have time for one more question, and I think it builds nicely on the first two. It is, I am a TA professional interested in testing out Programmatic. Where should I start?
Probably call talent.com will help you.
Yeah.
No, I would say, hey, you got to look at a couple of things. Do you want to partner, or do you want to try it yourself? If you want to partner, there are plenty of them out there, whether it's an ad agency or a programmatic platform. Secondly, what kind of recruiter are you? Are you small business? Are you enterprise? Is it high volume, low volume, super high skill, low skill? That'll help you make some of those decisions too. How well versed are you here? Have you used Indeed? And that's kind of your gateway drug. Well, come and see the rest of us, because there's a whole universe out there of job seekers that you're not touching if you're only on Indeed. And then lastly, you want to get really nitty gritty in there, get your fingernails dirty, or do you want the programmatic easy button? Both are good options. You just need to be pointed in that direction. So, reach out to somebody, reach out to me, reach out to Kevin, reach out to Kyle, and we'll point you in the right direction.
Kyle, you have anything to add to that before we close it out?
No, he said it perfectly.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, thanks to you. Thanks to Kevin as well. It's been a terrific session. I'm sure we've all learned a lot. And I want to thank talent.com for sharing their wisdom, sharing their expertise in this particular area of talent technology. Incredibly important. Not only will the humans stay involved, as they said, but equally as important, you have to have the right technology and the right technology partner. And certainly we got a great head start here with this session today. So thanks to all our speakers. Thanks to talent.com. Please come back and join us for another session on December 3rd. We're going to do that oral history project fireside chat with Monster founder Jeff Taylor. And then on December 8th, why talent acquisition companies can't recruit qualified, diverse talent. And we'll hear what Talenea has to say about that. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Bye.